Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. After Jesus had spoken, a Pharisee invited him to dine at his home. He entered and reclined at table to eat. The Pharisee was amazed to see that he did not observe the prescribed washing before the meal. And the Lord said to him, "O you Pharisees, although you clean the outside of the cup and the dish, inside you are filled with plunder and evil. You fools! Did not the maker of the outside also make the inside? But as to what is within, give alms, and behold, everything will be clean for you." The Gospel of the Lord.
When I read this gospel passage this morning, the first thought that I had was, every single mother in the parish probably would have agreed with this Pharisee. What were you thinking by not washing your hands before eating? And yet you can see, it's obvious, I think personally, as I was meditating on this, Jesus purposely didn't wash his hands as kind of a prophetic act to bait the Pharisees and get this discussion going. That's what I think. And so the Pharisees amazed that Jesus didn't wash his hands in observance of the law. And, well, what made me start thinking about this is I thought if the Blessed Virgin was there, she probably would have done the same thing. What are you thinking, son? Are you going to wash your hands before eating? However, Jesus takes this opportunity to reveal what we call Pharisaicalism. It's when you look really good on the outside, and on the outside you do all the nice things, but on the inside there's more work that needs to be done, which we can forget. And this is where prayer becomes the deal breaker for us. Prayer makes us stop and be attentive to the matters of the heart. It gets us to look inside. Prayer is the place where we can become attention to feelings and emotions, whether they're good or they're bad, because emotions and feelings tell us something. I like to call our feelings the nervous system of the soul. Their turbulence or their stillness becomes a revelation. And so if we pray, we start to realize, if we take the time to be quiet and still and pray, we start to realize that there's some things inside, maybe some anger, some jealousy, some rebellion. This is my favorite one, especially for young people. How often I deal with people who they might admit to being disobedient to their parents, and so I ask the question, well, who was right and who was wrong in this case? Who's usually right and who's usually wrong? Oh, my parents are. Oh, well, why do you keep going against them? Because I want to do what I want to do. This is called rebellion. It goes all the way back to the garden. And in the matters of the heart, in prayer, we can wrestle with and deal with this. And we can admit it's there and begin to clean up the inside of the cup, as Jesus is saying. But before we can address these things, we have to begin to allow Jesus' heart of mercy to pour into us. Jesus talks about the remedy for this dirty cup on the inside. He talks about the remedy for this as being almsgiving. And I would say that, well, almsgiving is when I extend charity and I become charitable. And I think perhaps the best way to begin almsgiving and become charitable and be a vessel of God's mercy is first to graciously receive what God is giving me. And the first thing he gives me in my heart is he gives me an awareness that there's some things that need to change inside so that he can find a clean and welcoming and tidy home to dwell in my inside, in my own heart. The truth of Jesus' heart pouring out his mercy upon me, which I must receive, which I want to receive, because when I start to pray, I realize I need it. And so now I accept the mercy that's pouring out for the sake of my healing and strength and health. I graciously accept his mercy because I've come to the understanding that I have some things that require his mercy. The second part about the Sacred Heart of Jesus, which we're on the subject of because today we're celebrating the Saint Margaret Mary, who inspired the devotion to the Sacred Heart. This truth of the mercy of Jesus' charity, his love poured out generously on the cross, water and blood flowing from his side, which becomes symbolic, what's poured into the cup, into the chalice at the Mass. His body, his blood, his soul and divinity from his wounded side pouring out to change my own heart, and especially to change my heart about the way I see others, the way he saw even his own executioners as he was on the cross. It's the heart of Christ and his fountain of mercy pouring into my own heart that begins to change me, even in the way I view enemies. This comes from no place else but from the throne of God. And to do that, that's what we require: divine assistance, his heart of mercy. Another truth about the heart of Christ changing me interiorly, it lies in the love and the light that he begins to inspire us to share with others. When the change starts to happen, the exteriors that the Pharisees have a good handle on, they become not simply acts to make me look good, but acts that come out of a heart that really wants to love, instead of doing all the right things to look good. And that's the difference. It's living from the inside out as opposed to living merely on the outside. This stream coming from Jesus' heart, his own heart, to give me the grace, has to be accepted, where gradually my heart becomes his heart, your heart becomes his heart, beating for the world. And so, taking the heart of Christ and accepting the cleansing deep within by the power and mercy of his precious blood, here we are to receive that today in the Holy Eucharist.
Regina Celi, letare, alleluia, qui aquam merum isti portare, alleluia, resurrexit sicut dixit, alleluia.